I see the perfect storm brewing right now. I see a perfect storm brewing, and we've noticed over time how they keep repackaging scenarios. They went from calling it the New Deal to the New World Order to the Great Reset, and now they're kind of back to calling it the New World Order. Um, you know, all the different terrorist organizations, and then all of a sudden it was homegrown terror, and then all of a sudden, people that stand up for morals and the Bible and Christianity and anything that stands against the system are terrorists now. They always flip the script over time. They always flip the script over time, and they've always had it set up to where they always have a plan B, a plan C, a plan D. And I'm talking about the powers that be, the Illuminati, the Luciferians, the Satanists, whatever you want to call them, the cannibals, the pedophiles. They always have it set up to where they have a plan B or C or D, and they always have a way of going about it another way. And I see this whole perfect storm brewing with this whole war with Iran, and I get it. There's biblical prophecy. God will use people to spite people. They don't even have to be operating in their mind and the Lord's will for the Lord to use them to spite them. Because God will move forward with prophecy regardless of man's ignorance and man's mentality. And he's proven that over time. But this whole Iran war and everything that's happening with oil and gas and everything it's leading to, the whole, putting a bunch of immigrants into America and then, rounding them up and then creating more detention facilities than we've ever seen before. And yes, they'll use them to house migrants, and Americans will cheer all this on, but they don't see that eventually it's going to be used against them. And they're perfecting their craft, all these government branches going about doing all this stuff. Don't think eventually one day they aren't going to turn on the American citizens. And you have to realize that the enemy has this Agenda 2030. And the reason I think it's so accurate is because of Agenda 21. If you paid attention to Agenda 21 and all the tyranny that ensued out of that, right around the year 2021, they had everything in place that they wanted to get done with Agenda 21. And it leads me to believe that they ain't playing around when it comes to Agenda 2030, that they have a goal in mind. And however it has to get there, it's going to get there. And we're going to talk about how they're getting to that goal today and what their goal is and what the end game is and how this is developing and where I believe it can lead. Hold on one second. You got a call coming in, but so I have to try to find this here. Give me a moment. Share screen. We'll start here and then we'll start narrowing it down. So there's an attack on Ras Laffan in Qatar, and I think this is the second attack that's happened. And I mean, I'm going to mute it here, but it's fully ablaze, and they've had to completely shut down the whole entire plant. And this comes just hours after Israeli strikes on Iran's largest natural gas plant. It's an energy war. This is a war about oil and energy, and it's creating a crisis like the world's never seen before. And I have information on that here in a moment. But hold on one second. I didn't mean to stop sharing that. My bad. And so this is a storm that's brewing. If you just look at like the gas and all that stuff, European prices are up 32%. 32% right now. I think chaos is literally unfolding before our eyes. Iran launched 2 waves of strikes on the Ras Laffan in Qatar, and this is the largest LNG hub in the world. It has everything to do with gas and fuel and all that stuff. 20% of the supply for LNG is produced out of this plant. Qatar's, energy is 77 million tons per year, and this whole entire export system is effectively completely shut down now in that area. And this means that 20% of the global LNG supply has been taken off the market for an unknown period of time. And the only thing that's going to really start to save things is like a ceasefire or something like that. And we know how Muslims are. There will never be a ceasefire. This is a war that's been started that will continue on. And that's the problem, is that a lot of this has to do with the long game. A lot of this has to do with the long game and how long is this going to last? Europe was already entering this period with gas storage at 27%, which is the lowest level for this time of year. Asia is now outbidding for every available cargo on the spot market. So now there's a bidding war on gas and oil. Ships that were heading to Europe are being rerouted east due to higher bids. People have no idea what's happening right now. And exactly what I was just saying a couple of days ago, no one's really talking about this. Like, it's being brought up, but to be analyzed and broken down for people to be able to understand what this means for our future. I don't think a lot of people are really getting the bigger picture here. Not to say that anybody's stupid. It's that nobody's paying attention, because there's this YouTube standard opinion out there that maintains focus for people. And I'm just going to continue to put things out that try to break that paradigm. I'm going to. The HSBC said this week that European gas prices will be 40% higher than previously forecast for all of 2026 and will remain elevated into 2027. The European Commission is already discussing emergency price caps. It's insane. Now, just moments ago, I'm going to try to share this here. Just moments ago, in Israel, in Haifa, Israel, an Iran ballistic missile impacted an oil refinery. And this is, I'm going to mute it here. And this is the footage of that oil refinery getting hit by Iran. It is literally a war on oil and energy now. Like, they're literally actively going after just this form of infrastructure, because if Iran is going to be a regime that dies, they're going to try to inflict as much pain upon the earth before they go out as possible. And to be honest with you, I don't know what you're seeing, but I'm not seeing a whole lot of Iran being shut down and their government being shut down and the people fighting for their freedom like they were told to. I see a lot of just the same old, but just now we're in global war, right? Now we're in global war. So many imports are going to be impacted by all of this. So many. Oil price surge sparks fears of $200 a barrel. Gas prices jumped 30%. European gas prices jumped by over 30%. And Donald Trump this morning threatened to massively blow up a huge gas field in the Middle East. On both sides, they're making this worse. And the only people that are going to suffer aren't the rich. It's going to be the poor. It's going to be the people who are poor and the people who are, hardworking Americans that are just trying to exist and live their lives. And I don't think people see what is brewing from all of this chaos that's beginning to happen. I don't think they see it. I don't think they want to see it. I think it's scary. Yeah. Yeah. Trump can say that the war is basically over and Iran has been absolutely destroyed, but it's not been. And this is going to continue on and continue on and continue on. And I mean, the crypto market's down, the stock markets are down. They took a huge hit yesterday, a huge hit, quite a big hit, actually. Everybody's, worshiping their crypto gods and all this and all that, and materialism and all this and all that. I'm telling you, it's only going to be for a moment. And I'm telling you, I've been warning people that tough times are here, tough times are coming, and it's not going to get any easier. Satan wants to wear God's people out before they go home. That is the whole goal. That is the whole goal. This is a ripple effect that everybody is going to feel, and it just has to reach your doorstep. And then once you start to feel it, then there's the reaction. Then the public is like, oh, this is what Josh on End Times Talk was talking about. Now I see. But until it affects them, they don't care. They don't care. The world does not care. Every single country on the face of the planet right now is about to be affected by all of this. Your paracetamol is made from oil. The phenol comes from a cumene process that starts with naphtha. I'm sorry, I'm not good with all these technical terms, but we're gonna plow through it. The naphtha comes from a refinery. Listen, breaking this down for you here. The refinery's feedstock transits the Strait of Hormuz. 99% of pharmaceutical feedstocks, solvents, reagents, and packaging are petrochemical derived. The American Gas Association confirmed it. The medicine cabinet is the sixth layer of the Hormuz crisis, and nobody is talking about it. The war started with uranium, it moved to oil, then fertilizer, then water, then plastic, now medicine. Paracetamol is 100% petrochemical. Phenol from cumene converted to para-aminophenol, then acetylated. Ibuprofen is 100% petrochemical. That's just ibuprofen. Isobutylbenzene, I don't know how to say that, sorry, plus propionic acid derivatives. Metformin, the most prescribed diabetes drug on earth, is 80 to 90% petrochemical. Dicyandiamide from natural gas derivatives. Antibiotics like amoxicillin and ciprofloxacin require methanol, acetone, and dichloromethane as solvents for extraction and crystallization. Oncology drugs need cold chain energy and plastic packaging. Every blister pack, every pill bottle, every syringe is PE, PP, or PET from Gulf naphtha. All of this is being affected by oil. All your medicines and everything. And I'm trying to be ahead of the curve here to give people a heads up. I've been telling local friends and people that I know, you need to try to start maybe the dose of medication you take. Try to, take a little sliver off the pill and save it if you can cut it apart, or, whatever, however you got to do. But try to save. If you got a few extra, don't throw them away. Save them. Because I'm telling you, hard times are coming. Extremely hard times are coming. And I'm just trying to get the word out. I'm not trying to be the bearer of bad news, but I'll be honest with you. I'm going to tell you what the rest ain't going to tell you how bad it actually is. And trust me, this gets worse. What I'm about to tell you, it gets worse. Mark my words. India makes 40 to 47% of American generic medicines by volume. It imports 4.35 billion in active pharmaceutical ingredients annually. 74% are from China, but the critical precursors, the methanol and ethylene glycol that feed Indian API synthesis, are 87.7% and roughly 100% Strait of Hormuz dependent. Do you see now? Do you see what's actually coming? And most people are like, this is a boring lie, but if you knew where I was going with all of this and what I see coming, this perfect storm that they've been waiting for, and how they've repackaged the New World Order to sell it to people, and people are cheering on their own demise. Boy, gosh, the mind screw that's happening here, and I want to say the other word so bad, but the mind screw that's happening here, the psychological operations that you are under are top notch. You are all being bombarded day in and day out, and say the umbrella term is MK Ultra, but like frequencies and all this stuff to try to pacify you to accept your fate. And we can't do it. We can't afford to do it. We can't afford to do it for our children. We can't afford to do it for our women. We can't afford to allow a 10 kingdom order to take over. We can't. Because that's what's happening. And they're doing it. They're pulling the big strings, getting it all sorts of prepared for you. The Indian government has prioritized household LPG over industrial petrochemical feedstock that's starving the downstream pharmaceutical chain, and API costs have surged 30% in the last 2 weeks. Do you understand what that means? All of your medications are going to start going up in price. Everybody's about to be affected. Every single person is about to be affected by this. And we're all going to start feeling it. Remember, they say you'll own nothing because they're going to make it so impossible you can't afford anything. They say you're going to have nothing. That means you're going to lose your shorts in all of this. And they say you're going to love it. And everything that you have, you're going to rent from the government. And the government's going to swoop in to save the day. Oh, you can keep your house, but we'll buy it from you. We'll allow you to live there, but you have to have a migrant that you house in your home if you have an extra bedroom. This is where it's all going. Mark my words. Agenda 2030. It makes it all possible. This whole entire thing. A diabetic in Ohio takes metformin every morning. The diamide that becomes the active ingredient traces back through a Chinese intermediate to a natural gas derivative that originated in the Gulf. The methanol used to crystallize the compound in a Hyderabad factory was shipped from a terminal that now sits behind the same Strait of Hormuz controlled by provincial commanders with sealed orders. The blister pack was molded from polyethylene derived from naphtha that loaded at a facility the IRGC published satellite targeting images of yesterday. One pill, 4 petrochemical dependencies, 1 choke point. That's what's happening right now. One pill, 4 petrochemical dependencies at the choke point of the Strait of Hormuz that's being controlled right now. The farmer in Iowa cannot plant corn because nitrogen costs $610. The diabetic in Ohio may not be able to fill a prescription because methanol costs whatever the strait permits. Both crises trace to the same 21 miles of water in the Strait of Hormuz. Both are governed by the same sealed packets. Both operate on biological clocks that do not negotiate with doctrine. They don't care. They don't care what they're doing to the world. They love to see the downfall of the world. I can't even begin to tell you how apocalyptic Iran and their belief systems is, how apocalyptic Islam is, and how they want to bring about the apocalypse. And nitrogen decides whether the food grows. Methanol decides whether the medicine is synthesized. Polyethylene decides whether it reaches the shelf in a blister pack. Watch your packaging begin to change now. Energy decides whether the cold chain holds for oncology and biologics, and every molecule in the pharmaceutical supply chain is now compromised by the Straits of Hormuz. Hold on, let me get some water here. All of it, fertilizer, gas, plastic, even the water, all at this choke point at the Strait of Hormuz that's under Iran's control. And I'll be honest with you, Iran's a bad mamma jamma. Like, they're a big country. They're not small. Obviously, they're not as big as America. They're probably about the size of Texas, maybe a little bigger. But there's a lot of them, and they have a lot of partners and a lot of proxies all over the place. They have a lot of stuff that even after their regime would die, they have a lot of hidden, embedded cells all over the place. And they want to see the world die. They absolutely want the world to die. The different facilities that have been hit at this point: South Pars gas field, the Escalation processing hub, Tehran area oil facilities. Like, that's just, I can't tell you how many because I'm not in Iran, all right? And Iran keeps things pretty secretive. Karga Island oil export terminal, Ras Laffan in Qatar, multiple attacks that have set the whole thing ablaze. And the LNG production, 20% of global LNG just got halted today. And Kuwait, Mina Al Ahmadi and Mina Abdullah refineries, 2 major units were hit. Saudi Arabia, the Ras Tanura refinery, one of the largest and a key export terminal, was hit. The Samref refinery, the Shaiba oil field, all in Saudi Arabia, hit. United Arab Emirates, the Ruwais refinery, that has 922,000 barrels per day capacity, has just been closed after being hit. The Habshan gas facility and the Bab field have been shut down. The Shah oil gas field in Abu Dhabi has been hit. In Bahrain, the Babco refinery got hit. In Oman, the Dakum refinery and port and the Salalah port oil facilities have been hit. And all of the things that have been attacked by Iran through the Straits of Hormuz, you got to understand that this has already triggered the largest oil supply disruption in history, and people are going to finally start waking up soon, hopefully. Hopefully, at least my audience gets the big picture that I'm trying to paint here and what's about to happen. But, we're going to go into this a little deeper. I want to show you the end game. I want to show you the end game. I don't want to just take you down the rabbit hole. I want to show you the end of it. I want to show you what they are planning to do to the world. And we're going to talk about it today. And man, every time I go live, dude, I start getting a really crazy toothache, dude. I got a crazy one happening right now. And so, global oil supply is down 8 million barrels per day in March, and that's 8% of world demand. And it's getting worse. Again, new infrastructure just got hit today, completely shutting a few different things down. It's like, and even Trump is saying, I'm going to hit one of your gas fields to Iran. And so They're both doing it. This is globalist agenda. This has nothing to do with America. It has nothing to do with Iran. It has nothing to do with Israel. This has to do with globalists pulling the trigger and changing the face of the world as we know it. Give me a moment here. I got to take a pill so that way I can not be in tooth pain. In the Strait of Hormuz blockade, 20% of global oil trade has been halted. Before, $70 to $80 a barrel before all of this. Now it's 110 plus. And now there's bidding wars on oil as to who gets it first. Isn't that cute? Record and the LNG is also spiking. Record IEA release of 400 million barrels from strategic reserves, which are the largest ever, are supposed to offset shortages, but I'm telling you right now, it isn't enough. It's not enough. It's not enough. And I've not been paying attention to the live chat because I try to maintain focus on what I'm talking about, otherwise I forget. But I do appreciate all the remedies and things like that. And it'd be easier to either email them to me or put them in the comment section below because I try to kind of focus on what I'm talking about during the lives here because otherwise I get sidetracked. Experts are describing this whole situation as worse than the 1973 oil crisis or even the whole Ukraine war that's, impacted in 2022. And even a quick ceasefire is not going to fix this. The damaged facilities need repairs. They're going to take weeks and months. Shipping insurance and risk premiums are going to remain sky high. And fear of escalation are going to keep the tankers away. And the powers that be are going to use this to their advantage. If you noticed before all of this started happening, a lot of the elite got into coal, like George Soros and Warren Buffett both got into coal not long before all this. They have been planning this. This is some Bilderberg, Illuminati, Freemasonic mumbo jumbo, globalist mumbo jumbo happening right now. In the context of this ongoing U.S. Israel Iran war and the resulting record in oil and gas prices that are sky high, and the supply shock from the Strait of Hormuz that's been closed. Again, and at minimum 8 million barrels a day, but even some estimates are up to 10 million barrels a day are offline. All the major refineries and LNG plants that are damaged or shut down. Countries are already moving beyond just the IEA strategic reserve releases, like the 400 million barrels coordinated so far. I'm telling you, everybody, if fighting continues for even just a few more weeks or months without quick repairs or a ceasefire, I'm telling you, everybody, this summer is going to be rough. I'm talking full on energy emergency rationing that's going to kick in under the national contingency plans that have already been put in place. That's why all the executive orders and Department of Defense initiatives that Trump's been putting into place, because he knew that this was the plan. This isn't about Iran. This is a plan, something bigger they're doing, and I'm going to show you the end game. The U.S. Department of Energy and FEMA and state governors and the EU equivalents and the Asian demand restraint programs, etc., are all going to kick into their contingency plans. It's going to be structured allocation to prevent supposedly total collapse while prioritizing life safety in the food supply. I wonder what that sounds like. It sounds like starvation. It sounds like your freedom's getting taken away. And it sounds like a culling is coming. And everybody walking around, Lottie frickin' da. They don't care. They don't care. People play it down all the time. This is obviously supposed to happen. This is obviously taking place. This is obviously right at our doorstep. I pray that it gets curbed quickly. And in case it doesn't get curbed quickly, here's what you can expect. Here's some things that you can expect from their own war game scenarios. An odd even system. And it's going to be the most common first step. Your license plate's last digital determines your license plate's last digit determines which days you can buy fuel. Odd plates on odd dates, even date plates on even dates. Often paired with purchase caps, like 5 to 10 gallons, or a half a tank max per visit. What does that sound like to you? Does that sound like that's going to be easy to navigate that? It's not going to be easy to navigate. And I'm trying to tell people now so they can prepare. I have people that will literally play it down like, they say things like God's in control. Yes, God is in control, but God is warning you. He's sending one of his children to warn you of what's about to take place. If the Lord chooses to tarry at all because he wants to see a major harvest, this is what could befall us this summer. And summer would be the perfect time to do it. The perfect time to do it. And not to mention all the disasters that they have planned, the floods and the hurricanes that we all know that they're capable of, in the wildfires with directed energy weapons and the chemtrails hammering our bodies and all the soft kill we go through day after day after day. I'll be honest with you, I'm a little pissed off about it. There's going to be long lines at gas stations, possibly hours-long waits, reduced hours or flags showing if fuel is available that day, and some gas stations will close to non-essentials. So if you're not essential, you won't get any gas. How does that sound? Does that sound like people are going to be able to keep their homes? You're going to own nothing. You're going to have nothing. You're going to like it. Whatever you have will be rented to you by the U.S. government. What does that sound like to you, huh? It sounds like tyranny to me. It sounds like they're pulling the string to their plan through all of this. That's what it looks like to me. They're going to have ration cards or coupons or app-based quotas tied to vehicle registration. Prices are going to stay high even with rationing. And governments could impose temporary price caps, but I don't think that they will. It's more about the rationing. This is already being seen in some Asian countries that are hit hardest already. And the US and Europe used this in the 1970s. And in the United States, after the disasters like Hurricane Sandy and things like that, they use stuff like this. This has been practiced. They know how to do it. Not to mention the rolling blackouts. And and the places that are gas and LNG dependent are definitely, possibly for this, but rolling blackouts and electricity shortages. I just recently went without power, and it was like God was telling me, like, this is coming more than you think. And I think they're preparing people with little disasters and things like that, shutting down their power. And I see them upgrading their systems too. They're replacing everything. They're overhauling the electrical system through disasters. I don't know if you see that. Raise your hand if you see that. I see it. I see them using disasters to take out transformers, blow them up, surge the lines, and then replace them to the new system that they can control even more. I don't know about you, but it absolutely seems like a thing to me. I watched videos of transformers in my area blowing up on fire. when we got hit with that storm, and then the power went out and it was out for days. And for my son, it was out even longer. And I told him, I said, son, this is a great learning opportunity to be ready for what's coming. And he plays that video game called Fallout or whatever. And I said, it's looking to be like Fallout in real life. That's what it looks like to me. You're a post-apocalyptic movie that you like to watch. You're almost living it now, my brother, my sister. Utilities are going to publish daily, weekly schedules for 1 to 4 hour rotating power outages by neighborhood or zone to avoid a total grid collapse. And I think a lot of that is partly because of their damned data centers that they're building all over the place. All the energy is being consolidated for those pieces of crap. And yeah, I'm angry about it. I hate to see what's happening to my fellow man. Hate to see what's happening to my brothers and my sisters in Christ. And I'm kind of like that protective older brother or even a protective younger brother that don't play around. I don't like to see God's people getting messed with. And it makes me mad. And I'm sorry. I got emotions. Obviously, the hospitals and the water treatment places and emergency services are going to be exempt or on backup generators during the rolling blackouts and electricity shortages, but it's coming. Heating oil or natural gas for homes could also be rationed. Thermostat mandates. And a lot of it says no higher than 62 to 66 degrees in the daytime. Prolonged LNG shortages and the refinery hits are going to affect diesel. I'll tell you that right now. And early examples of this are already appearing in parts of the Middle East and Asia from this crisis. They're talking about prolonged disruptions here. They're gonna get hand out ration books, like food stamps almost, but rationing books. You got to have a ration book, and people will trade those probably for illicit substances and all that stuff, just like they do food stamps. Industrial shutdowns, school and work disruptions, and the economy is going to slow, and there'll be recession risks. Hospitals, food transport, emergency services, obviously, they're going to try to keep running more. But if they're going to be liable for attack, and during blackouts, the jihadis that are stationed all over this country can use a rolling blackout as cover to attack U.S. citizens, and no one would be able to get the word out. And I think Iran knows this possibility. If they create energy shortage, that America is going to have rolling blackouts to exist, and they can use that moment in that crisis to be able to go in and attack anywhere they want and make maximum impact. And when the lights turn back on, it's a different FEMA sector. It no longer is the way that it was before. And they could travel from place to place. It could be one, sector FEMA or FEMA Sector 1, or it could be FEMA Sector 2 that's next. And as the rolling blackouts happen, and there's different power grids in America, yes, but they're all going to be doing this, and it would make a great path for jihadis to attack. David Workman's saying that in West Virginia and Virginia right now, the internet is down. Yeah, and I mean, like, there's all sorts of little things that have been happening, little outages and Wi-Fi outages and cell phone disruptions and all this different stuff. They're preparing for an internet kill switch. It might not even be a real internet disaster, but they're going to make it look like one. They're going to make it look like one. I promise you that. Yeah, and Haley's spot on when she says this. This is the time to strengthen your relationship with Jesus. If the Lord tarries, we will need a firm foundation to remain immovable. Steady your emotions. Yes, yes, yes. This is why I'm warning people, so you can steady your emotions and not panic. That's spot on, Haley. Haley, you get it, sister. You get it. You get exactly what I'm trying to say. That is exactly what I've been trying to do. I'm not good at putting things into words sometimes. I get kind of jumbled up. But that is exactly what I'm trying to prepare you for. To not be emotional when it finally does pop off, and not to panic, and to literally move through this thing like Neo through the Matrix. That's what I want. That's what I want for everybody that's a part of this channel, and every single brother and sister in Christ out there. Even though their doctrine might be off, as long as their heart is for Jesus, I pray that they can move through this thing like Neo through the Matrix, slowing everything down around them and knowing what's coming. That's what I pray for you in Jesus' mighty name. And I'm using it as obviously like the Matrix and Neo as a metaphor, but for time and space to literally bend around you and it not affect you the way it's affecting everybody else. And I think that there's preparations that can take place in this. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm not even going to try to say this name, but it says, yes, only the truth of Jesus will guide us in these times. They have been preparing for this. We were created for times such as this. And that is very, very well said. It is so important, you know, that you guys even save these sort of videos, these little bits of videos, you know. And you know, I'm not going to go too far into it here, but I want to show you something. But it says the UN is preparing for nuclear catastrophe, the worst case scenario, including use of nukes in the Middle East. And I've always believed the nukes are going to first fly in the Middle East. I've always believed that. I believe that if America's going to get hit, there's going to be no warning. Russia's been saying, oh, the nuclear red button, blah, 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 blah. And all the other YouTube channels are like, oh, yeah, Russia this, Russia that, Ukraine this, Ukraine that. I even told you back then, like, don't listen to that right now. It's a Middle East war. It's a Middle East war. All the other side wars, they have to happen in order to bring about the 10 kingdoms. But this is more about all of everything transferring back to the Middle East. And so the United Nations is preparing for nuclear catastrophe if the Middle East war escalates further. World Health Organization officials are monitoring the consequences of joint U.S.-Israeli strikes on Iran atomic sites and are remaining vigilant for nuclear threats in the region. This seems to me like the bow of Elam prophecy. I believe Iran's going to get hit somewhere that's going to cause a nuclear disaster. I really do. And I think that when you talk about Jeremiah 49, I think it's verses 30 through 36 is the bow of Elam prophecy. Let me just try to pull it up real quick here. Let me yes, 34 through 39. Let me put this up here. Hold on. Jeremiah 49, 34 through 39. The word of the Lord that came to Jeremiah the prophet against Elam, which is modern Iran. And I've proven this on other videos that I've made, and I've gone into what Elam is, and it's absolutely Iran. In the beginning of the reign of Zedekiah, king of Judah, saying, thus saith the Lord of hosts. And remember, this has its ancient application, where this happened back in the day, but I'm going to show you where it has a future application as well. It says, thus saith the Lord of hosts, behold, I will break the bow of Elam, the chief of their might, and upon Elam will I bring the four winds from the four quarters of heaven, and will scatter them towards all those winds, north, west, south, and east. God is going to scatter Iran And it says here, and there shall be no nation whither the outcasts of Elam or Iran shall not come. So they're going to be scattered among the nations. Something's going to happen in Iran where everybody has to leave. And God says, for I will cause Elam to be dismayed before their enemies. There you go, Israel and the U.S. And before them that seek their life, and I will bring evil upon them, even my fierce anger. I wouldn't want to be in that. I wouldn't want to be in that. It says, saith the Lord. This is God. So obviously bad things are happening, and a lot of this is going to have a ripple effect, but this is God doing his thing, and we have to be in alignment with his plan. And it says, and I will send the sword after them till I have consumed them. So it doesn't look too good for Iran. And it says right here, and I will set my throne in Elam. And I really believe that means the revival that's going to come to Iran after the church is freed there. I do think the bow of Elam, like my sister Laura said earlier today, the bow of Elam has to be broken. And no matter what that takes, God's going to get that done because God is God and you are you. Sit in subjection to the Almighty God. And let him do his thing. And we'll do whatever we got to do on the ground to make it work for him if we serve God. All right, now here's the thing. I believe that in verse 38 it says, and I will set my throne in Elam. That is obviously God, bringing about his spirit and his church there and revival, obviously. And it says here, and I will destroy from thence the king and the princes, saith the Lord. Listen, right here, verse 39, but it shall come to pass in the latter days, but it shall come to pass in the latter days that I will bring again the captivity of Elam, saith the Lord. So what's happened before will happen again. And it's in the scriptures. This has to happen, everybody. It has to happen. This has to take place. And the UN preparing for nuclear catastrophe in the Middle East tells you everything you need to know about what was just said, prophetically speaking. And so I'm not going to read the whole article, but it just goes to show they know it's coming. They know it's coming because they're preparing it. And God's going to allow it because God's word will be fulfilled. God is not a liar. Now, I'm going to show you this video because I think it plays into where we're at right now. And I'm gonna read this before I show it. The CIA had access to real-time aerial tracking of an entire city to follow all vehicles and reverse engineer their locations. And this happened in 2012. And the footage you're about to see is what they're willing to show. And you have to think, if they're willing to show this, what are they hiding now? I mean, we'll play that again. I want you to see. Watch how they're tracking this vehicle. And then they mapped it out. This was in 2012. This is from satellite. People aren't ready for what's coming. They think they're going to run off into the woods and play Bear Grylls. It ain't going to happen. The drones, everything, the satellite technology, I'm telling you, this is about to be insane. Absolutely insane. I don't think people are prepared for what's about to take place. And a lot of people are going to be taken off guard. But again, like Haley was saying earlier, this is the time to strengthen your relationship with Jesus. If the Lord tarries, she says, we will need a firm foundation to remain immovable. She says, steady your emotions and do not panic. That's why I'm making this live. Haley hit the nail on the head, sister. And these were those what they call fusion centers that did this. Now they're data centers. And now AI is in the cockpit. AI is watching every move you make, mapping all you do out, and putting it in a file with your name on it. Now, we're going to go on a little stroll on X, and I just want to show you some crap, and it's crap. But we're going to look at this first, and I just want you to, I'm going to let it play. Unless there's music, I'll mute it. Actually, we'll do this. I'll mute it anyways. But this is a center that ICE recently purchased for $145 million in Salt Lake City, Utah. And they're going to drive along this thing. I just want you to get an idea how big this is. How big this bad boy is. And the plan is that when they remove you from your home, to ship you to a whole new location that's across the United States, so that way you're not familiar. Look at that. Look at how big that place is. It's huge. Just purchased for ICE. And here's the thing. They say, it's for the migrants now and all that stuff. For now. Until you start to buck the system, and everything, all the stuff they're putting in place right now will end up being for you. And a lot of Americans don't see this coming, and they're celebrating their own demise. Look at how big this thing is. It's massive. Massive. The government is building. The government is buying up. They are getting ready. They are getting ready. Now, I want to go through this here, just kind of show you. And just because it might say, February 2025 or whatever, doesn't mean it doesn't apply to the situation we're in right now. It just means they knew a year ago what they were going to do. February in 2015. We'll play this right here.
The Department of Homeland Security is pushing ahead with its plans of expanding detention space across the country. The agency confirming to Fox it has purchased a warehouse facility in Chester, New York, less than 2 hours from New York City. CB Cotton is live in our New York newsroom with the details. Hello, CB.
Hey, Mike. So the latest facility in Chester, New York now joins a list of several other warehouses located across the country that have been purchased by DHS from funding through the One Big Beautiful Bill.
Through funding the One Big Beautiful Bill, that's what it come from. And I mean, it goes on and on. It's not just New York. Even Guantanamo Bay is expanding. Even Guantanamo Bay is expanding. ICE is planning massive expansion of detention space, documents show. Look at this thing. Look at all the stuff they're building. I mean, that's a good chunk of the country that they can detain right there. Look at all those facilities, man. And notice how there's not a lot of places on the West Coast they're doing this, except for Southern California. I think because they know a big event, a big tsunami is coming out of that area. I'm just going to be honest with you. Some flooding, big time flooding. But look at all this. I mean, this is serious. ICE is preparing right here a new facility. Look at that bad boy. And obviously, yeah, look at that. Big old honker. And that's in February. ICE is preparing a $38.3 billion warehouse buying surge to build deportation hubs. And I mean, they're even building detention centers in Florida with alligators around them. I wonder, I mean, everybody's laughing because it's the illegal immigrants, but wait until you're on a list. Or wait, maybe some of you, because you even come to this channel, you're already on a list. I wonder if I'm on a list. I bet you we're all on a list. I mean, we can keep going. New Jersey's planning a 15-year contract for detention facilities. This was 2 years ago. This was an hour ago. 4 men arrested for murder in Kentucky are now being held with ICE detained. Oh, well. That's not. Detention centers are filling up. Yeah. Florida prepares to build a second immigration detention center to join Alligator Alcatraz that I just mentioned. This was last year. They're spending $38 billion on detention centers for 92,000 illegals. That's over $400,000 a bed. You know what? Maybe it's important we listen to this. And Harrison Smith, he ain't too bad.
Reuters, ICE to spend $38.3 billion on detention centers across U.S. Document shows 90,000 beds they're planning, $400,000 a bed. That's a scam. That is an outright scam. There's absolutely no way it would cost that much if it wasn't a scam. $400,000 is literally almost twice as much as I bought my house for 5 years ago. So you're telling me, like, here's an idea. How about instead of temporarily housing 90,000 illegal immigrants, what if we gave 90,000 young families a free home? That might be the choice I would make if it was up to me. And then in terms of the illegal immigrants, you can save money by making them work.
So I mean,
it won't cost us anything. We'll actually make
we
money.
could, but the point is he's saying, is this modern FEMA camps right here? Is this modern FEMA camps? Absolutely. Absolutely, this is the end game. You were sold a lie. Because here's the thing, all I've been seeing is very selective deportations happening, and they've defunded it to the point where obviously they got to save face, and we both know the left and the right work together, so they've defunded deportations and ICE and DHS and all that stuff, right? So that way they could be able to hold back from deporting people because they still need their massive army here, but they had to play it and save faith for a little while and deport a bunch of people so that way they could get ready to deport us. And then all these people they got here, all right, that are good little bootlickers will arrest you, and they'll be the ones that they'll deputize or whatever the frick, and they'll end up being the ones that come after us and put us in those detention centers. I've had dreams about that stuff where foreigners were dressed in black tactical gear. You know what I'm saying? It's just, this is all shady, man. And we're being, all of this stuff that they were going to do way back when, so they're repackaging to sell it to Americans that have this patriotic heart, that want to believe in this country and fight for the good of this country and fight against, people trying to destroy the country the way that they are. But instead, they've been sold a lie. I mean, we could go on and on and on. $1.26 billion for the largest migrant detention center in the U.S. That was last year. ICE spends $38 billion retrofitting warehouses to serve as detention centers. I mean, over and over and over again. 7 massive new detention centers for 80,000 illegal aliens. That's how they sell it to you. But remember the FEMA coffins? Remember all the FEMA coffins they had? I wonder whatever happened to those FEMA coffins. I wonder whatever happened to those. I wonder where those are at, because I didn't see those getting used during the pandemic. And they got a FEMA camp right there in Maui. And this is 11 minutes ago. The Democrats said FEMA had no money for Americans in Maui. The Democrats said FEMA had no money for Americans in East Palestine, Ohio. The Democrats said FEMA had no money for Americans in Western North Carolina, but FEMA had an extra $1 billion to spend on illegal aliens, supposedly, as a bonus. And I'm saying illegal aliens because, like, I think eventually they're going to put people in these. They're making concentration camps, and they're selling it to the illegal aliens as a place to be safe and housed. But really, it's a place for Americans to go to. And then the replacement is when everybody that's here illegally gets to take your house and live in your house when you're put in a detention center and live the life that you prepared for. It's very possible. It's very possible.
Let me ask you, would you build a multi-acre, multi-million-dollar facility that holds several thousand illegals if you were planning on fixing the illegal immigration problem? Would you build 2 multi-acre, multi-million-dollar facilities that each hold several thousand illegal aliens if you were planning on fixing the illegal immigration problem? It's pretty clear the answer is no, you wouldn't. But that's exactly what the Democrats with your tax dollars have done in Reynosa, Mexico, at the Santa Devita 1 and Santa Devita 2 locations. Massive complexes. Right now, we're being told there's about 1,000 in each one of them. They can hold several thousand each. But on top of that, there are tens of thousands of people in the city of Reynosa renting rooms from people, and hundreds more right along the river at makeshift camps. This is what the Democrats are doing. And it's not just in Reynosa, Mexico. It's like this in every border city in Mexico.
And what's also interesting is that it's in Agenda 2030 how you're going to house illegal migrants in your home. And if you don't, you can't get help or government help or anything like that. That's what they want. That's what they want. They want to integrate these people into our society to replace us, to where they have their slaves, but to get rid of the people that are standing against their New World Order. And don't think these detention centers ain't for you. Look at this. Look at this huge facility here. Look at that huge facility in Chicago. And yeah, you know, it's for the illegal immigrants. Right. Yep. This big, huge place right here, that's a detention center, is for illegal immigrants. Yep. That's what it's for, and only what it's for, right? Just like, you know, all these evil people are encroaching upon our borders. And now they're getting political positions. And all the laws are starting to change. And America's becoming a whole different place. Here's another detention center in New Jersey, Delaney Hall. Tons of them being popped up all over the place. And they're all near the train tracks. They're all near the train tracks. Let me see here. Hold on a moment. Let me see here. Yeah, this is what I was looking for right here. I don't know if it's going to pop up immediately. My computer's been being... There we go. So right where they're making all those detention centers are all the Amtrak routes, the trains. Hence why they're going to have coal locomotives. They're going to start using coal again because oil is going to go through the roof. So they run coal. Coal's cheap. While the oil shoots up through the roof for everybody else. And what's funny is, too, is like I've been telling people about Atlas Shrugged, and I'll give it kind of this, that, hold on one second, I got to write something down. I'll give you this about Atlas Shrugged, and I'll kind of tell you why I talk about it is, you know, and people that watch this channel, I'm not going to keep re-explaining things, but I really hope that You know, people can go back to other lives that I've did even just recently and kind of catch up on things. It's important because I teach a lot of different stuff within those videos that I'm not going to talk about every single live. So it's good to go back. Don't just be all this like recent breaking news stuff. Go back because I'm educating people and giving people a foundation to look at to where they can see what's coming even easier. And I also have a lot of different videos and stuff that I've made in my video section as well that are educational and help people to kind of see the bigger picture. But Atlas Shrugged, me and Doc Marquis, who was born into the Illuminati, one of the Illuminati bloodline families, and so he was taught things other people who just join aren't taught. And he after he gave his life to Jesus, he dedicated his life to exposing the plans of the Illuminati until they took him out in 2017, 2018. And we would often talk on the phone for hours and hours. And I remember one conversation where we were talking about the movie Atlas Shrugged, and he was kind of telling me about, you know, what's in it and all that stuff because I hadn't read it, or at the time they actually hadn't even come out with a movie yet when I had learned about Atlas Shrugged. I do have a copy of the book. I don't have a copy of the movies. I eventually would like to get some hard copy of the movies to kind of, you know, have time to pick them apart, you know, predictive programming wise. But I got to get the funds to be able to snatch those up. But anyways, my point is that he said that Atlas Shrugged was written by Ayn Rand, and Ayn Rand was kind of like a side piece for one of the Rothschilds, and that she was under Illuminati orders when she was told to write that. And I said, you know, I said, why did they want her to write it? And he said, Josh, purely to tell the world what they were going to do. And even Carol Needham just watched Atlas Shrugged. Atlas Shrugged. Yeah, you know, I don't know about if the book was supposed to really be released to the public or not. I've never heard that, but I wouldn't doubt it if that was the case. But in the movies, and I don't know if it's part 1, part 2, or part 3 because it's a trilogy. It's like broken up into 3 parts. And it is on YouTube for free, and I think it might also where else is it, Carol? Where you watched it? Did you watch it on YouTube or was it like Netflix or something? I don't know. Um, I'm sure you can Google it too, where to watch Atlas Shrugged part 1, 2, and 3. But in one of those movies, and I knew it right there and then. I said, "There's going to be an energy crisis one day." There was this lady and this guy, and they were traveling through a desert. Yeah, it was on YouTube where she watched it, and they were traveling somewhere, and they stopped at a gas station to fill up. And I can't remember. I looked at the price of gas. It stood out to me, and they weren't really intending it to be like obvious, but you know, I just happened to look, and gas was like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It was more than $300 a gallon. It wasn't $200 a gallon. I can't remember if it was like 3 or like 6 or like 7, but it was way up there. Price for a full gallon, for a full tank of gas. Sorry, for a full tank of gas. And it was in that movie that I seen that, and you know, it just blows my mind because that's where it's all headed. You know, that's where it's all headed. And they predicted it, you know, in that movie that gas was going to be through the roof. And then even in the Illuminati card game, it talks about, and the flavor text at the bottom says, a crippling energy shortage affects power blocks worldwide. It's going to be rolling blackouts. They're preparing for this. And if this happens, here's another card that played out exactly as they put it out there. There we go. All right. So she filled her tank, and it was $895 in the movie Atlas Shrugged. Thank you, Carol. I appreciate you, sister. She watched that, and she's seen what I was talking about. You paid attention, didn't you? Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, $895 for a full tank of gas in the movie Atlas Shrugged. That's all. And the whole premise of the movie is is stopping production, stopping industrialization, all the factories closing, everything closing up shop. The whole thing was about what John Galt in the movie says is stopping the motor of the world. How do you stop the motor of the world? You stop it through an energy crisis. You stop it through oil. And in the beginning of this video I made today, I outlined what's happening. It's like there is a war on energy now. And it's like they're each attacking each other's infrastructure. And this is going to cripple the world as we know it, the free world as we know it. And it's even in the Illuminati card game, this card I'm showing you here. I can't tell you how many times this stupid card game and things that are in it end up happening. Just the picture and usually the flavor text. Sometimes there's some subliminal symbolism in it and stuff like that. These aren't tarot cards or anything like that. It's a card game. But they all are always putting what they're going to do out in the public eye. So that way, one day they can say, oh, that was just a movie, or oh, that was just a card game. There's no coincidence. It's a way to cover their trail, too. It's a way to cover their trail. And so, I've been telling people this was coming, and I really think that they're going to start going after people. And I know how people feel about Alex Jones. I get it. I do. I believe he's controlled opposition as well. I really do. I think he's controlled opposition, absolutely. And I think, though, that each and every single person here, if you are a conspiracy theorist and you've been in this at any length of time, all of us have probably learned something from Alex Jones. So regardless of being controlled opposition and probably being an MK Ultra victim himself and being used unknowingly or even knowingly, we at least at one point, whether it be from Dark Secrets of the Bohemian Grove, or Police State 1, 2, 3, or 4, or the Obama Deception, or Endgame, or any of his documentaries he ever made, or any of his radio shows he ever did in the past, we've all learned a little bit of something. All right? To a certain extent. And there are things sometimes that get out on his platform that are pretty damning. All right, it's controlled opposition, absolutely. He and his parents weren't CIA, but his uncle was. His uncle was CIA, and his dad was a dentist that also worked for them. And so, yeah, absolutely controlled, absolutely MK Ultra, if you ask me. I know people that are close to that were close to Alex Jones, and a lot of people believe he's an asset, and that actually Michael Flynn is his handler. General Flynn is his handler. A lot of people believe that. But, just like people with like Billy Graham, he might have been a Mason. He might have even been involved in possibly trafficking. There's proof of that, that's out there. There is. But regardless of that, Billy Graham led more people to Jesus Christ than what a lot of people have. Now, doesn't mean they continue listening to Billy Graham. It means that they found Jesus, however Jesus could reach them, right? So just like with the conspiracy theorist, a lot of us have learned something at some point that led us on the path that we're on now from, from Alex Jones. It stemmed out of that, right? But here's the thing. They're officially shutting Alex Jones down. They've bobbed and weaved back and forth with the idea, but now supposedly, in like the next 30 days ish or whatever, they're gonna shut him down. And this is what I see. All right, I'm gonna let everybody sees like, yeah, bring them alive. Whoa, you know what I mean? Like, they got their pitchforks and their torches. They cannot wait to see the destruction of this thing. But what I see is that if we have to look at this thing like the snake of war, okay, they're going after the head of the snake. And y'all gonna have to admit, when it comes to conspiracies and people that mainly stand against the New World Order, for the most part, InfoWars has been pretty much at the front lines for quite a long time, and they've been compromised, absolutely, and they sell a watered down message now, absolutely. But them getting shut down is, I think, actually a warning sign to the rest of us. For people like me, like the Watchmen community, like, just random people. It could, whatever influencer you watch, whoever is telling you stuff, exposing this stuff to you, once they go to going after those who spread the information and come out against what they're doing, the game is on. It ain't gonna be too much longer. They'll probably try to take your guns. And I can't remember if it's Virginia or West Virginia, but they're trying to take the guns from people there. I think it's Virginia. I'm almost positive it's Virginia. Yeah, it's all problem, reaction, solution. Absolutely. It's all a stage, but just because it's a stage doesn't mean it's not happening and that we're all not going to be affected by it. Regardless, we're going to be affected by this thing. And I mean, if you don't know what I'm talking about today, go watch the beginning of this video and watch it through. Restart it when, after it's done being live, or restart it now if you want. But I'm telling you, I think I lined it up pretty good that they are doing the old bait and switch the same way they have always done this crap. Like I said, it went from the New Deal to the New World Order to the Great Reset. Now it's back to the New Deal. And I showed you how they gave you the image of a Muslim terrorist for a period of time. And then all of a sudden it was homegrown terror, or no, it was terror cells. Then it was homegrown terror, right? And the real reality is they want the Muslims to be here. They want these illegal immigrants to be here, but they want to jail you instead. They have to arrest them for a period of time. They have to deport them, all that stuff. But these people get around. They got the funding and the money. They got your money in their back pocket paying for them to get around. For them to deport, for them to bring them back in if they need to later on. They can make it, they can literally deport now and just allow them back in later on after they got you in the detention facilities when it comes time. Because you're the one standing against their system from moving forward. And they've even said, even the leaders that be right now are saying they're building a new world order. So eventually you then become the terrorists. Christians and conservatives and Republicans are then the terrorists. They did it on January 6th. They made people look like they were terrorists when really they were ignorant Americans, some of them. Some of them knew what they were doing. Some weren't there to cause any harm. Maybe some were there to be an a-hole. But this is how they're flipping the script. Just like they've done before, they're doing it again. It went from terrorist to terror cells to homegrown terror, and then they monitored American citizens from the beginning of Obama's presidency all the way up into now. That's how they started it, because they needed an enemy in the homeland so they could monitor your move. And I showed you the video where they're doing it. I'll let it play while we're talking for a moment. I'll show you how they're watching you. This is back in 2012. That this was happening back in 2012 with satellite technology. They were watching every single move you make, everything you do. Heck, they fart and they probably see the thermal on that. And so they've been setting up this system. They're in it for the long haul. And here we are, fast forward, on the verge of complete and utter tyranny. All they need is the right crisis, and they can bring it all in on top of you like a house of cards. And they're working on it right now. And I think it's very possible that the energy crisis is the way that they're going to do it. The viral lockdown was the dress rehearsal for what's coming next. And I'm starting to believe that every single virus lockdown thing was all about the COVID lockdown. They might have something prepared in the future, little viral scares to be able to lock certain areas down maybe. But I think this is the big enchilada, the oil and the energy crisis that's coming. And your cell phone is your biggest downfall. And even if I told you that it was killing you right now, you wouldn't get rid of it. Guaranteed. But it's my communication with my kids. But everybody's got to live with it. It's just part of life now. People have accepted their own demise. You're being tracked and traced in everything that you do. And they're making a profile and a folder with your name on it. Every single thing. And every single thing you disagree with on internet, every single thing you post here, every single one of your thoughts is triangulated and you're categorized and you're put on a list. So that way, when it comes time to round you up and put you into one of the many detention centers that they have built and are building, you're over and done with. You're cooked. That's it. Bottom line. And that's what's coming. And all they're going to need is the right crisis. And I believe the energy crisis is what's going to make this happen. Here's your end game. Here's your end game, everybody. You're at the verge of it right now. You're not in Kansas anymore. Normal isn't coming back. Only Jesus can come back and save us from this, from what's coming. There's no running from this. There's no running from the drones. There's no running from the robots. There's no running from AI. They have just about everything covered, and they've been pacifying the public in order to get everything into place, and they're waiting for the right crisis to be able to pull the trigger and to turn it all on. And I think the right crisis is the energy crisis at this point. It's what makes the most sense. This summer could be a whole lot different than what you think it's going to be. I'm really at that point now. I'm really thinking that this is extremely serious. And if you care about your family, if you care about your friends, just send them this video outlining how all of this is playing out. If you got friends that you want to see be okay through what's coming, and you got to give people a heads up. And I've already put in the work and shown you how they're going to go about doing this. And I've shown you the end game. I've shown you how they're just repackaging age-old ideas to be able to sell it to American citizens now as their redemption, but really it's their imprisonment. As a famous band once said, they're going to build a prison. I mean, I could totally play that right now, but it's not a Christian band. But they're trying to build a prison. They're trying to build a prison for you and me to live in, another prison system for you and me. That's exactly what's happening. They're building a prison system. It's a detention center. You're tracked and traced everywhere you go. All the security cameras that are all over your streets, facial recognition software, all ran by the U.S. government. Security checkpoints with U.S. military personnel on the checkpoints. Every checkpoint's either around the curve or over the hill, and you're already bottlenecked before you even know it. There's no running from this. All the drones, the robots, the robot dogs, everything, it's all coming down to this. And the data centers that will run it all, I pray Jesus keeps you safe. And I pray Jesus keeps you okay in the days ahead, because I think it's going to be a rough one. Well, all the other channels are going to pacify you and tell you, go to sleep, hush little baby, don't say a word, everything's going to be okay. And but Jesus warned us that there'd be wars and rumors of wars, nation rising against nation, kingdom against kingdom, famines, pestilences, earthquakes in diverse places. In other parts of the Gospels, he says, distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring. Fearful sights in the heavens coming upon earth, that men's hearts will even fail them for fear of what's coming upon the earth. Here we go. This is it. This is the bottom line. And I really do think, and I think there's scriptures that allude to it, that God's waiting us to plant the seeds and grow these this harvest for him, and he's going to reap the harvest. There's multiple harvests that are going to come in, but the first one, the bride of Christ, I think there's certain people that are going to get saved that are part of the bride of Christ that God is waiting for. I do. I think that he has a date that figure is all figured out. Even if he's waiting for that one last person, there's a date that he knows that one last person is going to come to him, because he knows everything from the beginning to the end. But he's just waiting on us to be a part of what he's already doing. Let's be in alignment with God's plan. Let's be praying for protection. Let's cover our families in the blood of Jesus Christ. And let's focus on him with everything that we have, because if without him, there is no hope. May God bless you all. May he keep you. And please don't forget to go out and change this world in which you live.